Hello and welcome to this week's tarot reading for all earth signs. I hope this finds you well. I trust you'll use your own intuition as your primary instrument of resonance. Leave behind what does not reverberate. Tarot does not tell the future. The only thing that determines your future is how you react, reflect, and respond to the messages herein. This week I find myself traveling, so I've only bought one deck of cards with me, and I've decided for this week's reading for all signs to only do a one card pull. And it's not very often that I do this, but a lot can come from just one card. And for you this week, I have the Justice card, and the deck that I'm using is from the Pagan Other Worlds deck. So we have a woman dressed in red, a red robe, and she's holding the sword and the scales, but she is covered over the top of her red robe with some interesting nest-like configurations. She has a nest on her head, but she also has these branches winding around her body, and she's walking across some dirt landscape, and she has bare feet, and she's holding the sword up above her head and looking down at the scales in her right hand. And the Justice card, of course, is Libra, ruled by Venus. Saturn is exalted there, and it's a card of balance, but it's also a card of decision. It's a card of authority. It's a card of the coming together of all these different components to come to a conclusion, because when we think of the courtroom, it's not just the judge, it's also the jury, the prosecutor, the defense, all the attorneys, and then of course sometimes there are people in the crowd, and then of course the witnesses as well. So it's this coming together of all these different components in order to come to a decision. And maybe you are trying to make a decision at this point in time, but you don't have all the information. You don't have everything that you need to be able to make a sound decision. And so this reading is a reminder to do your due diligence and to get as much information as you can. And of course, always cross-reference your sources, cross-reference your information to make sure that it is actually, in fact, correct. And yeah, that requires some relationship, with other people. That requires rapport. It requires building a foundation with people so that you can build something bigger and better, because of course the seventh house, or the house of Libra, is about coming together with another to do something bigger and better. And 5 houses from the 7th, of course, is the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of desires, it's the house of networking. And yeah, in order to get to that bigger picture, or to that bigger, not picture, but because it's the 11th house is the house of like humanitarianism and like the world. To get to that, you have to come together with another. You have to come together with somebody else and work towards something together. And of course, the 7th house is opposite the 1st house, so it's an extension of self. And of course, in the courtroom, it's not just about the victim, or it's not just about the perpetrator. It's about all of these factors coming together. So if you are going through some sort of court case or judicial hearing or something like that, this is a card for you to say that all things are going to come together in order to create that bigger picture, or to create that bigger narrative, of course. And the bird's nest on top of her head is very interesting. A bird's nest is kind of only used for a little time of a bird's life. Usually when they're having the baby birds. But I don't think, other than that, the bird's nest is kind of left, and abandoned sometimes. And sometimes the birds come back to their old nest, but most of the time, once the baby birds have learnt how to fly and fend for themselves, the nest is abandoned. So, yeah, there's something in that, the fleeting nature of these constructions as well, and realizing that something that was true today is not necessarily true tomorrow. And of course, we see this in the progression of sometimes court cases, that the evidence that's presented, then something else pops up and it completely voids everything beforehand. So, the fleeting nature of truth, or the fleeting nature of practicality or usefulness as well, is really demonstrated here in this card. And the bare feet, there's some vulnerability there. Our feet are the most vulnerable part of ourselves. And to walk across the landscape in bare feet is no small trial. You have to be very conscientious as well when you're walking bare feet. You have to be very conscientious of the environment that you're in, and what you're stepping in. And of course, not everything that you step in can be seen, with the naked eye. There are sometimes poisons or chemicals or, just nasty things on the ground that we can't see, but we pick up through the soles of our feet. So just being very conscious of that. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you for this week. I hope that you enjoyed the reading. Thank you. Bye.